Assalamu alaikum, ladies. Welcome to Team Me. Sorry, I was a couple of minutes late opening the session. This is Coach Amina here. We're just going to give everyone a couple of minutes, if you don't mind, just to join. Mashallah, everyone's here very quickly, so it won't take too long. But let's just give it another 2 minutes, please, for everyone to join. In the meantime, I'd like to ask you all to share with me how anger affects your life. So in the chat box, please, how does anger affect your life? And I'll press the recording. Oh, we are recording. Who's recording? Because it won't come up on my computer if I'm not recording. Somehow I'm recording. Well, okay, excellent. I think that happened automatically. Great. So ladies, how does anger affect your life? It impacts your relationships, yeah? It affects your whole day, your relationship with Allah, and you feel a disconnect, yeah? It takes away your interest in Salah, in namaz and Quran, okay? So you're not as kind of wanting, you're not wanting to do it as much, yeah? Shaitan loves that. It affects your judgment, absolutely. It affects your khushu', you lose peace, yep. Makes you feel uneasy. Takes away your peace and happiness. Yeah, and we're here to look for salam, right? This is why we've set up Sister Seeking Salam. This is what we're offering you, like, doesn't come from us, but that's what we're saying. Like, that's what we realized everybody wanted. That's what we wanted, peace and happiness. And anger is one of those things that is the opposite of peace and happiness. It is the complete opposite. If we were talking about extremes, like, frustration might be like a little bit takes you away from your happiness, like your peace, right? Maybe worry takes you a little bit away, but anger takes you away 100%, takes you away from your peace, the opposite. One sister says, I've actually improved over the years. However, anger is a feeling that consumes us and leaves us feeling negative. Anger can affect our relationships with others and ourselves. Yep, absolutely. It affects you physically and spiritually. Yep. Well, mind, body, and soul, right? Affects you on every count. Walaikum salam, Sister Shahrish. What affects your question I'm asking everyone is, how does anger affect you? How does anger affect us? Because the theme at the moment is anger. How's it affecting us? How does it affect your life? Affects you physically, psychologically, and spiritually. Yeah, absolutely. Walaikum salam, Amina. Sister Sana, it exhausts you. Yeah, that's the physical, right? That's the physical aspect of it. Absolutely exhausts you. And also really affects your health. If you have got to a point, where if you have experienced it, any of you, a lot of anger in your life, you will see all sort of medical conditions starting to show up in your life, I heard somewhere in Chinese medicine, actually, that anger sits in the liver. I think that's what it was. So it's either the liver or the kidney. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard this, but the more anger you get, the more it affects that particular organ. Now, I think it affects your heart, it affects everything. But it's amazing, isn't it, how it impacts our body. The immediate, which is the headache and the stress and the exhaustion. And then afterwards, the real kind of illnesses that flare up when we are feeling angry often. We're in that state. Sister Rosina says, Salam, Sister, walaikum salam. Definitely spiritually, you often don't realize it's draining psychologically, like carrying baggage around. Yeah, anger is a baggage. That's a heavy suitcase. They're never going to let you on the plane with that. Sometimes it feels like energy that you don't know what to do with. Absolutely. And that's why we felt it was so important to address anger. Though what we are hoping to show you in Sister Seeking Islam is there's always a lot behind the anger. There's a lot of emotions behind the anger, and the anger is almost like how it manifests. I'm feeling really hurt, and eventually that turns into anger. I'm feeling really insecure, and eventually it turns into anger. I'm feeling really, right, alone, and eventually it turns into anger. Oh yeah, the mirror, so the anger is linked to the liver, yeah. And also you feel guilty afterwards. That does not help you either. I'm sure guilt lies in another part of the organs in our body, but it's just, yeah, it's very detrimental in that way. Okay, I've gone on for far too long. We've got everyone here, I believe. So I'm going to today introduce you to another new coach joining Sister Seeking Salam. As I train coaches, alhamdulillah, this current 6 months, I'm training another 5 coaches. And they're now ready to start coaching. So as they are, I'm bringing them to Sister Seeking Salam. So that's why you see I keep introducing different coaches in the session. Just kind of help, just support them on their first session. But you're all here, and I know that they're going to be great, inshallah, and you're all going to be a great support for them. But they have so much to give. So today I have Dr. Lubna with us, and she's going to talk to you about when your trust has been broken and how that leads to anger. So remember, the theme of anger is looking at what's behind the anger. So the trust feeling broken, that's part of why the anger was there, but she's going to take you deeper beyond that, inshallah, to see what's behind the trust being broken. So it's a really exciting session, and I want to welcome you, Lubna.
Jazakallah khair, Amina. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone. I'll start with this opening dua. Bismillah, auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. O my Lord, open my chest and ease my task for me. Remove the impediment from my speech so that they may understand what I say. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallahu wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. I testify that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah, alone without partner, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave and messenger. Now, it's an interesting topic, that breaking of trust. And it's more interesting in a way that everyone has a different meaning for trust. For me, it all started when I was a child. And this is how I started creating stories in my head. As a child, I was the first child in both sides, my maternal grandmom and paternal grandparents' side. However, what I noticed growing up was there were lots of comments made, as usually happens within the extended families. Often comments were made, and most of them were negative comments, which made me feel confused because I never agreed with them. But the interesting thing was that my parents never ever backed me up in a way, like they never said anything whenever those comments were made. Fair enough, it can be due to any reason, but then I wasn't even getting any reassurance from my parents after those comments were made. This made me start think, like, what's going on? Why they keep saying these things, and why do my parents keep listening to that? Why don't they say something? Because I don't think that's right, that's true. And that conflict between what I think and what others are saying brought a lot of uncomfortable feeling as a child. But because there was no backup from my parents, because as a child, your parents are the whole world for you. You look You look at things, you see the world through your parents' eyes. That's what my understanding is. And when I saw this happening, and it didn't fit with what I understood, I started making stories, started believing that maybe whatever these comments are about, they are true. And that's why my parents don't say anything. That building of story kept on for some time, and that started building into anger. The trigger of this anger was that I felt let down by my own parents. And because of this belief of being let down, I felt that my trust was broken, and that triggered the anger. And slowly, as I started growing out older, this anger started extending from my parents to my siblings, then my friends, and then the wider circle. Now, at this point of time, what was going on is that any act, any comment that made me felt that I'm being let down, it could be anything. It was not about backing me up anymore. It could be anything that made me felt that I'm being let down, brought a judgment, an expectation that my trust is broken, and that made me feel more angry. And it reached to a point where I started maintaining a distance from people. I kept people away from me. I couldn't trust anybody. Now, this was my teenage times now. This was because I was so scared that if I let anybody come near me, or if I trust anybody, they will let me down and they'll break my trust. So better avoid coming closer to them. Some of you might relate to it as well. And this is because I was creating these stories in my mind. And by doing that, I was letting myself down by being alone. Like I was not letting anybody come closer to me. I was trying to make friends, but still I was having those judgments. Whatever they did, whatever happened between us, or me and my friend, was letting me down, and that broke my trust. And then I started maintaining a distance. So I didn't have many friends, and that let me be that made me so lonely that I just couldn't bear this anymore. And that started building anger again, and started making me feel maybe I'm alone because I'm not worthy of being with other people. I'm alone because I'm not worthy of having a relationship with them. It was hard. And whenever I heard anything negative, or any comparison, or any comment, or any even anything good, if anybody came to support me or help me, I just made the judgment, no, I don't know what this is about. Most likely they are trying to let me down. They'll break my trust. Please go away. And it carried on, subhanallah, it carried on till my adulthood. And it started affecting my relationship to some extent with my husband, all right. But then again, I just started living in my own bubble, because I started comparing myself with him. if he's doing, something valuable, or that is appreciated, I'm also doing something equal to him, or sometimes I felt like I'm better than him. But I maintained a distance of not asking for help, not allowing him to come closer to me. But what I didn't realize was that via this door of anger, which I was closing at people, I was actually closing doors to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I didn't realize, that although Allah provides us with everything that we need, it's He who looks after us. It's He who backs us up. We don't need anybody's help. However, what I didn't realize was that Allah sends help via people. So whatever support, whatever we need comes through means, and most of the time, the means are other people. I just couldn't see that. So distance from me. And I also missed the point. I didn't realize that these people who are coming to me for to help me by as a means from Allah are human. They can or will let me down because they will miss the expectation that I'm having from them. Because I haven't told them this is what I feel. I want you to do A, B, C, and D. If it is not according to those standards, you'll be letting me down. You'll be breaking my trust, and I don't want you to come closer to me. I was not actually being very clear to them. However, penny just dropped when I came in these coaching sessions with Amina, and she helped me to see the clear picture. That connection with Allah is the main source of support that I have to believe in when I'm. Just bear with me, ladies. Okay, thank you for your patience. So I have been feeling all by myself, lonely, not getting any help, and then on top of that, also feeling that no one is coming closer to me, not seeing that I am actually the one who is closing doors at them because I'm feeling so angry. I started getting in this negative core belief of not being worthy enough to get help. And when I started unlayering these core beliefs one by one, what I realized was whatever happened in my childhood was qadar of Allah. That's what Allah wanted to happen. I couldn't have changed, nobody could have changed it. But it happened because there was something good in it. And whatever has happened is not related to trust. It wasn't trust issue at all. It wasn't anybody letting me down. It was just that I started creating these stories and creating those expectations and judgment about people that made me think that my trust is broken. I'm being let down. I started feeling angry, and I used that anger as a door for people to come in and out in my life. When this realization struck me, and it struck me so hard, I could see why I find it difficult to connect with my children. Why is parenting so hard for me? Why connecting with my husband, my parents, is so difficult? But now, when I see that this is what was meant to happen, and it was not for to harm me or to let me down. It was to help me become a best version of myself, to understand what it it leads to. Made me come more closer to Allah. And I understood the real meaning of inshallah very clearly. I would say it was after having sessions with Amina, I did understand the meaning of inshallah, that when we say inshallah, we say it because we can say something, but that might not happen without the will of Allah. And that's what happened with me. But that was the will of Allah, and I took it very personally. But Alhamdulillah, slowly and surely, when I started seeing this, it is becoming easier for me. And that's how I can say that it was, although I considered it as breaking trust leading to anger, it was not about trust. It was not about being angry. It was not about any judgment. It was just me not being able to see Allah in that situation there and then. But Alhamdulillah, as you all will agree with me, Allah loves His servants more than the servant can love herself or himself. And that's how He guided me in connecting with Him again. Alhamdulillah. This is what I have to say about breaking trust and getting angry and losing sight of Allah.
Yeah, subhanallah. You're saying it like this is all I have to say. It is absolutely, subhanallah, sis. Amazing. And I can't imagine what everyone was getting from it, but it was absolutely powerful listening to you. And I've been on the journey with you, but hearing it like that, I could see it so clearly that that's what happens to us in life, in so many different ways. Something happens and we form that belief in our life. And then because of that, we look at the world and our relationships and the people around us with certain judgments and expectations. And when they fail us, we get angry. And that's the journey, subhanAllah, that I think, well, as a coach, that's what I hear from everyone. So beautifully explained, mashallah. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm just wanted to say how amazing, you explained that so beautifully, so calmly, but so clearly, and I'm sure it's been hugely beneficial for everyone. So what I'm going to do now is put everyone in the breakout rooms, 4 and 5. I'd like everyone to take, please, a good few minutes, at least 3 minutes each, to share what do you see in your journey? What could you relate to in your journey from what Dr. Lubna shared today? And so that means I'll give you all 15 minutes in the room, inshallah, and then I'll bring you out. And then we can share from that, whatever great insights came from your discussion. I'm sure so much wisdom will come and we'd love to all hear that collectively. But let's open the rooms. Sisters, I will close the room after 15 minutes, inshallah. Do stay on to share your insights. Okay, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, sisters. I think we're back now.
Walaikum assalam.
Islam. Right. I found that it was hard for you guys to come out. You must have been having a great chat. Tell me. Do share for the benefit of everyone. What did you see between yourselves? What did you guys discuss? Okay, I'd love to hear from you ladies.
Assalamu alaikum.
Excellent, Hamina. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. I had two sisters with us, and I think it was just me and one sister was actually talking, and we really got into the conversation of childhood experiences, and we really resonated with Lubna's experience of how, as a child, the belief that other people, what they said, and the fact that nobody else, what's that word? Where you don't deny that that's not true, just let it go. And so when other family members did not say, no, you're not lazy, you're not useless, and all these things that, the labels that were given, then I started believing in those labels. And eventually, I just felt that blame, like, you never ever helped me out, and this is why I'm like this. This is why we started feeling that resentment towards people who were actually criticizing, and not realizing that actually we're just blaming other people. And over the years, making that belief become almost like a reality within us, and it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really hit back, that all of that is not true. I mean, back to the core belief and the understanding that we are perfect in Allah's eyes, as long as we are doing our best and we are trying everything for doing everything for the sake of Allah. That's enough.
Yeah.
That's it. Going back to our core belief, and it's not about who people think we are and their judgment. It's about Allah's judgment, and Allah is always just. And that was enough to come back to the core belief, alhamdulillah, and to find that peace with Allah.
And you see, we are imperfectly perfect, but we try to be perfectly perfect, and we want other people to see us as perfectly perfect, yet we are imperfectly perfect.
And it doesn't matter, I mean, I was like, we were saying that it doesn't matter what other people think of you, as long as you're doing it for Allah and you know you're trying your best to be, because when you're doing something for Allah, obviously your heart and your mind is in connection with Allah. So you're not going to intentionally do something bad. And inna Allaha ma'a sabirin. Innama al-a'malu binniyat. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, innama al-a'malu binniyat. Every action is judged by intention. So when you go back to that and you remember that, that's enough. That Allah does not judge us by actions, but more by what we intend by the action, what we want to do, with the action.
Yeah. But we judge ourselves by the response of those around us. We can almost imagine that our reward is based on, the response of those around us. So if others are pleased with us, then it means, yeah, we've done it well. But actually, only Allah knows our intention. Only Allah knows what's in our heart, and only Allah is going to judge, and only Allah is going to reward. Okay, so we have a few more sisters that have messaged. So I'll read the messages, and then if anyone wants to raise their hand and add their reflections, then please do. so you don't have to just listen to my voice reading the messages. Okay. Sister Roxana says, how a childhood belief can carry itself to adulthood and impact our lives and our relationships. Absolutely, sis. Absolutely. Your beliefs are the lens of which you see your life and relationships. But often you form that belief when you were very small and probably didn't bring a line to it at that point. And that's why we struggle. Sister Sadi says, we discussed our journeys and our experiences that impacted us and made us so angry and bitter, and how Allah helped us out of it. Alhamdulillah. I was doing a session just earlier, and I was saying that when we get into these states, there are times we feel peace, and there are times we don't feel at peace. We feel angry, we feel upset, we feel lost. And when in those moments, it's like you've fallen into a well. You feel very lonely, very dark place on your own, struggling, not sure how to get out. And it's only when we hold on to the rope of Allah are we able to get out and find peace again, because we're out. But problem is, often we don't realize what we're doing, and instead of trying to hold on to the rope of Allah, we hold on to the ropes of others. So what others think of us, what others say to us, what others respond, how others respond to us. You know, if my family value me, then I'll be happy, I'll be peaceful. If, you know, I am successful, then I'll feel peace and contentment. If I, you know, had the perfectly well-behaved children, then that I'll find peace. If my husband is very loving towards me and we're deeply connected, then I'll find peace. And we're always trying to look for, innocently, not realizing, to hold on to other ropes other than Allah. The only thing that we need to find that peace again is to take our problem back to Allah and bring Allah into it. You know, what does Allah think of me? What does Allah want from me? Okay, so, sorry, wanted to share that. Sister Leah says, see opportunities as a way to please Allah, whether it works out or flops, Allah's reward regardless of the outcome. Absolutely. And in fact, when we're seeing hardship, we're not seeing opportunity. So if there's any part at the moment that is difficult in your life and you're only seeing the hardship, know that the other side of that coin is the opportunities to please Allah. Sister Oxnara says, we judge ourselves based on the others' perceptions. Absolutely. That's the rope that we try and grab, right? To find peace and contentment. As adults, Dr. Amina says, we can change that story. We're back in control. We can change what Allah for Allah, and we're back in the game. Yeah, we just have to recognize what's holding us back. But most of the time, we think it's the people around us. You know, if only they didn't let me down. If only that they behaved in a certain way. If only they did this. So rather than focusing on others around us, to change that story, that belief, we've got to look deep within ourselves. Sister Sahrish says, we discussed our harsh experience and long journey, and that Allah Ta'ala holds our hands, and He says, I'm always with you. I feel confident and proud for the patience of hard times. Yes, subhanAllah. You know, every time you fall in that well, sisters, and you reach out for Allah to help you, that is so pleasing to Allah. That is such a blessed thing, because that's the heart returning back to Allah. Sorry about the noise. Often you hear birds when I'm running the session. I can't hear any birds today, but there's some children that are a little bit upset. Hope they didn't get hurt. Okay. Okay, Sister Mary's put her hand up. I'll unmute you, sis.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, Sister Lubna, that was a really very insightful session, mashallah, and you're very brave to share them, and I can't imagine the amount of courage it may have taken for you to do that, so we appreciate you, first of all. Now in our breakout session, I've never had this before, but I think two of the sisters never spoke, and so it was just me and another sister speaking. And I think she raised a point, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing here, that she felt if maybe the format of these sessions could be reviewed, in the sense that she feels like we've been going through these sessions for quite some time, and maybe perhaps like rather than having the breakout rooms, if there could be like a practical task that people could do in their own time, like for example, she suggested like if we maybe did like a wrote on a piece of paper anger, and then try and kind of work out where those are coming from, just to kind of move forward. So I just thought I'd bring that suggestion, because I noticed that she didn't put anything down. So, but yeah, I mean, I thought it's a good idea to try and help people who aren't normally able to participate as much. That maybe there might be something that they could do, away from the group that might help them. So it's just something to consider. To pass that on, really.
Oops, I muted myself by accident. Jazakallah khair, sisters, for that feedback. Yeah, we're open for feedback. We created these sessions initially for everyone to connect in lockdown, but then at the same time we thought, well, we'll share a little bit of the wisdom that Allah blessed us with along our coaching journeys. So we've been evolving and developing it as we go along. So yeah, if you find that something's going to help you and we feel we can do it, then please do share, inshallah, and we will be happy to review that. You can always WhatsApp us on sisterseekingsalam@gmail.com your ideas, and we're open. You know, this is for you guys, inshallah. So we're hoping that through the reflections in the breakout room, so the purpose of the breakout rooms is for you guys to do that reflection between yourselves, and sometimes that can happen and sometimes it doesn't. We try and put a coach in each room to facilitate that, but it may still happen, sometimes it doesn't, and so yeah, let's inshallah, let's have a look at how we can do it. Dr. Amina, you wanted to say something?
Yes, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope everyone's well. Jazakallah khair for all the feedback. It's been such a lovely session. Dr. Lubna, just listening to your story, it's been really powerful. And I guess why we chose to have these conversations is that a lot of the time we are doing a lot. And actually, for what I found personally is these times in tea and me times is probably one of the few times that I just get to sit down and listen and be present and really reflect on what's going on for me, what sisters are sharing, what may be going on for them. And what I found really, really powerful in my journey is that space for reflection. I was doing a lot, but I wasn't being. And sometimes when we slow down and we listen and we reflect, we unearth gems that we never ever recognized. And so I guess, and I hope that you sisters are benefiting from that. But definitely we are open to taking suggestions and maybe mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But we, yeah, over to you, Amina.
Absolutely. I was just putting a message out earlier to another group, and I was saying to them, I know you've joined me for knowledge, but this isn't about more knowledge. Because actually having knowledge on a plate, sorry, I snuck a banana in my mouth. Right, bismillah. Having knowledge is like having rice on the plate. Unless we eat it, it doesn't benefit us. Right, so even in these sessions, we're trying to not give you a lot of knowledge. But what we're trying to do here, and that's from our experience as a coach, and what brings transformation, is to create a space and an opportunity for you to reflect. And yes, you could reflect by doing the exercises. So yeah, there are different ways of reflecting. Sometimes maybe you might find that you want that quiet space in the breakout room to reflect rather than chatting amongst yourselves, and absolutely. But it's just a good time for us to explain as coaches why we're doing it the way we are. And there might be different ways to reflect, but the only way to eat the rice on your plate is to reflect. Because when you bring your problem together with the knowledge that you have gained, that's what brings about the change. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to not give you more rice on your plate, but trying to create a space for you for that rice, because everyone's plates are quite full. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, our aim is to help you reflect. Please let us know how best we can help you do that, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, ladies. Okay, so one other sister put her hand up. Sister, can you unmute yourself?
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I think Sister Meru, she was, I think, trying to explain my idea. So if I can just kind of elaborate on what I meant. So what I was saying is that the going through the breakout sessions is great, because it gets everybody talking about their own personal experiences and what they took from the talk, which is what you need to actually get thinking. But what I was thinking is that after listening to it and after talking, everything always comes down to thinking about your relationship with God, and that's like the general theme which I'm seeing from every single session, which is not a bad thing. That's not at all what I'm trying to say, but I think what I'm trying to get across is that if we could be given some kind of a practical activity that we could take away and do in our own time, such as, okay, so today's topic was anger. Okay, so here's a couple of things that you could think about anger, about what things it will trigger, and like a kind of a mini, very small, simple solution, or something to think about, like a spider diagram or something. I don't know, I'm not a life coach, so I don't really know what kind of tools, but just like a small tool that could be shared with us after each topic, so that we can actually, if we want to, go away and think about it in a bit more detail.
Yes,
I think that's what I was trying to get across.
Absolutely.
As opposed to kind of changing what we already have, because it's great. I mean, the breakout sessions are great when people participate, but when they don't, it's kind of 10 minutes of silence, you know.
And maybe do in the breakout rooms is give you the question, and if you didn't manage to get to it, you've still got it at the end to go on and reflect on, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, Sister Jazakallah khair, for sharing. What you're actually asking us for is homework, and I don't know if you're going to make friends for doing that.
Well, it's optional, right? It's just a takeaway point saying, okay, if you want to really look at it a bit more, then here's a tool for you to go away and do that.
Yeah,
I think this is really useful to look at all the different topics, but then because every single person on this call will relate to every single topic in some way, in their own personal way. But then, you know, for us to really actually benefit from it in a true sense, I think if we can do something about it ourselves, rather than just coming on the call, listening to it for an hour and then going away and then not changing anything.
No, absolutely.
I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say.
What I'm hearing is, Amina, give us some more. Don't give us more rice. Give us more space. And point taken. Jazakallah khair, sister. And in terms of what you took from the session, so take a moment now to reflect. In terms of, and to be honest, even for Lubna to have got to where she did with what she shared, it's been a long journey on our coaching journey. You know, it takes layers. You to get to that core. She has removed layer upon layer upon layer, and you know, really, it took time. So I want to just kind of make that clear that we won't always see it that deeply. And what happens when you're being coached as opposed to doing it yourself is you will be pushed to go further and further and further. So when I first would ask Lubna, well, what is it? She'd give me an answer. And I said, why is that? And I'd push her and she'd say, why? And I would still try and help her go deeper and deeper. And so in that way, sometimes it's helpful to do it with someone, because we don't want to go beyond our comfort zone, or we don't realize to go further. But even to go, a few layers deeper on our own, that's great. And inshallah, we will, as coaches, think about how best we can set some reflective tasks afterwards. Okay, we're at the end of time. Does anyone else want to say anything before we leave? Now, we haven't said much about how trust leads to anger, but how many of you sisters could relate to actually having your trust broken? Sister Asmina, you want to say something? Oh, look, hands are going up. Right, okay. Asmina first.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, I wanted to say that how, sorry, Assalamu alaikum.
Sorry, my fault.
Yeah. Sometimes when someone you trust, someone that you love a lot, breaks your trust, you take it to mean so much more about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And how I learned that actually I shouldn't actually let that person devalue everything that about myself, and devalue and not just unappreciate myself, because that's what sometimes that leads us to do that when they break your trust, and you just feel like you weren't good enough, or something that you did wrong. It just feels like they didn't appreciate you enough, or respect you enough, and that therefore that's why they did what they did. And you can fall into the danger of doing that, and that you sort of let them take away your own self-acceptance of yourself and your value of yourself. And that's actually really important that you don't do that.
Absolutely. It somehow becomes about your self-worth when it really isn't about that.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I've learned is that part of accepting someone else is that you accept that they will do wrong and they will make mistakes, and you have to accept people for who they are as well. And other thing is, subhanAllah, I realized through my journey of being angry is that the amount of wrong that I've done and against Allah, and how many times has He forgiven me, and how patient Allah with us, all of creation, for wronging Him again and again. Because how much does He trust us with? He trusts us with our bodies, our health, our wealth, our children. How Allah overlooks so many things that we do, and yet we can't find it in ourselves to forgive others when they do something wrong. That was a big thing for me. And how Allah gives us subhanAllah, how patient He gives us a whole lifetime to turn back to Him, and we can be so impatient with others when they do wrong against us. We just want instantly a sorry and straight away.
And you know what? Allah gives us 6 hours to repent, even that before it's written as a bad deed.
SubhanAllah. Yeah.
Mercy and what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show us, in our wrongdoing. Jazakallah khair, sister. Okay, Sister Eloquence. What's your name, sis? Come online and tell me what's your name.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
My name is Tanveer, but you can call me Tan.
Okay.
The reason why I have eloquence is because I write poetry on the side.
Mashallah.
So it's just an alias.
Right.
But yeah, no, I wanted to share something about, I thought this topic was very relevant to me because I'm currently going through the early stages of a divorce. And I feel that my trust was broken. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm going to try and stick to the facts. To the point as well. My trust was found out when my ex-husband revealed something to me, say 4 months into the marriage. And it was something that in a normal situation, someone would have left. But I decided to stay for the sake of trying to make the marriage work. But my trust was fully broken at that point. And I had I had a lot of anger with the situation, but the trust was completely gone. It was like no matter what he did or what we did as a couple, it just couldn't erase the fact that my trust has been broken. And then it led to a breakdown in the marriage, which ended very bitterly. And then now I'm left with a lot of resentment, a lot of anger. Like, why did they do this to me? Why is it like when they had the opportunity to fix the marriage that everything felt one-sided, and it felt like I was fighting for the marriage and nothing was done on that side. So I was left with a lot of anger and resentment for the first couple of months. And I'd say it's only during Ramadan that things have calmed down for me, and I've turned that anger by reflecting my focus into my connection with God and potentially, inshallah, moving forward. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share from my side.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair, sister. May Allah make it easy for you, and may Allah give you peace in your heart with what has happened and give you what's the best outcome for you. And what you said there is so key, that it's only when you focus on your connection with Allah that actually the whole thing became a lot easier for you to cope with. It's physically, certain steps are happening through a divorce, but it's the emotional side that takes its toll. And that, the only place we're going to find help with that, and for the physical, is with Allah. And so I'm glad, alhamdulillah, that that's what you found, and may Allah continue to bless your journey to find more and more and more peace from Him. I mean, Sister Simon wanted to say something before we leave.
Assalamu alaikum, sisters. I wanted to actually start by apologising to the sisters in the breakout room who are with me, Sister Asia and Sister Meru. I apologise that I wasn't able to contribute, and for being a bit of a poor participant. I was tied up with the children, and they were really noisy, so I was listening in, but I wasn't able to participate, so I've got myself a quiet corner now. I think what I wanted to share about what kind of fell away for me was the whole concept, I think, the whole construct of your trust being broken by someone is that in itself, is that we're putting our trust in another human being that has the same weaknesses as us, and we have an expectation that perhaps they may be unaware of, or they may be unable to meet, but we will then feel let down or hurt or broken by whatever it is that they may have done. And I think ultimately, and there's certain situations that the sisters mentioned, such as a certain trust being broken, say, within a marriage contract or that kind of thing. That's slightly different, but I think some of the things that we have expectations from others, and as children we'll make that because we don't see Allah in the same way. Until we start to sort of mature and have those insights. But I think ultimately what hit home for me was that if you put your trust in Allah, that trust can never be broken. Whereas with human beings, there's always that potential. And if we keep doing that and tripping ourselves up each time we place our trust in someone, our expectations, then that will continue to happen until we see that actually we need to come back to our connection with Allah.
Absolutely, sis. And you know what you said there, we place expectations on others that we don't even tell them.
Yeah.
So are they going to fail? Probably 99% of the time, because they didn't even agree to your expectations. They didn't even know. It's like when when I do the marriage event training, one of the questions I asked is, well, what did you want to get from your marriage? What did you want to feel? And the sisters, will give all sorts of answers, like, I wanted to feel secure, I wanted to feel special, I wanted to feel valued, I wanted to feel protected. And then my next question is, did you ever tell your husband that? And it's always a no, but there's always disappointment because I didn't get it. And yeah, we could communicate that and explain that, and someone might say okay, but they're still likely to let you down at some point or another, because as you say, they're just human. So yeah, even if we agree to it, which gives us a better chance, we might even still fail the agreement because we're human. And so yeah, it is hard to completely just put the trust in Allah and expect only from Allah, because we are humans, we will fall into that. But when we do, we need to remember that of course this is going to happen. It doesn't mean anything. We are all human. We are forever failing ourselves. And we take it back to Allah and we can find peace with that. It's like a fair Simon. But a few more hands up. Sister Yasmin, did you want to say something?
Assalamu alaikum, sisters. I hope you're all well. The sister who just spoke now, I think Sister Samira, sorry if I got your name incorrect, she talked about expectations, right? And on Monday, when we had another session on anger, I spoke about it a little bit in our breakout room, and I thought I'll just mention it again here. So yes, I understand, and we all should know that our expectations should only be from Allah, right? But within relationships as a parent and child, a husband and wife, or a child and a parent, or friendships, or any type of relationship, like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it, there are certain rights of those people. So for example, the rights of a wife or rights of a husband. So those expectations are given to us from Allah, right? What about those expectations which are, given by Allah to the people? So as a parent, my expectations are towards my child, to care for them, to nurture them, to make sure I do my best to keep them safe and spiritually, emotionally, and all those kind of things. But me knowing that, and my child coming up to me and saying that, hold on, I have this expectation from you and you're not fulfilling it. And me being like, no, well, you're expecting too much, but it's not too much. Does that make sense? So where does that fit in?
I think what you're there is when we fail even the expectations Allah placed on us.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. We're all going to strive to meet those expectations, but actually, because we are all going to sin as well, then doesn't that mean that Allah already knows and we are created that we are going to fail those expectations sometimes?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying let's be okay, everyone, with giving up all of the responsibilities that Allah has placed upon us. No, I'm saying we're going to strive, we're going to do our best, but we are all going to not reach perfection. We're not going to be able to do everything 100% as we need to. We are going to make mistakes. That's why we're perfectly imperfect. Okay. The perfect version of us would get it right every time. The imperfect version of who we really are is going to make mistakes, is going to fall below the bar. And we will fall less when we take off the pressure to be perfect.
Okay.
That leads us to fail more than anything else. Take off the pressure. Like, I'm a parent coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I might shout at my kids. You'd expect that I wouldn't.
Of course.
That I might just be like, ah!
We have those moments, don't we? Yeah.
Beat myself up about it. No, I try and get back to Allah as quickly as possible through it.
Okay.
I know it can happen. It doesn't mean I'm going to quit my job. It doesn't mean I'm a rubbish coach.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
I accept that it can happen, and I don't beat myself up anymore.
Sure.
Hmm?
Sure.
It's very helpful.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much.
Two more hands. So Dr. Amina and then Sister Mariam, please. Dr. Amina.
Do you want to go, Mariam? I'm happy for Mariam to go first. That's fine.
Assalamu alaikum, my sisters. It's a shame I've completely missed.
Oh, sorry. That's me. Let me try and get you back.
Sorry, it's okay. It's all right. Okay. I think one of the things which recently happened to me, and I think that helped me personally, because sometimes I really struggle with me. So like when there's a negativity happening in the family or something's happening, one of my first reaction is like flights or fights. I just don't know how to handle things and stuff. But so before I would just burst into tears, or I would just you know, just accept it, take it, and, you know, and it would just really affect me. And then I would take it out on my son, and it caused me a great deal of pain and problem, and I would struggle with not understanding things. But I think recently what I've been doing, and I think that's helped, that when I'm put in that situation, when things like that happen, I think the first thing I do is straight away, as soon as if I can't feel I'm being overwhelmed and I can't deal with and the negativity or something, you know, being pushed my way, which I don't have control. I straight away, I just like literally run to do the salah. I just run to salah and I just read my 2 rakat sunnah, begging Allah's help at that moment. You know, Allah, please help me, because I don't know how to deal with it. And just by doing that, I think that, alhamdulillah, I think it gives me a lot of courage at that time to be able to face it. And also the other person realizes at that time that, okay, she's gone praying to Allah. And I think that's sort of stopped that person from continuing with their, I don't know, whatever they're saying at that time, you know. It stops them from taking it out on me. Yeah. And I think that has really helped me personally. But I do really struggle. I mean, I really, really get knocked back when negative things happening around me. I just don't know how to deal with it, and I, you know, get migraine, and, you know, it just knocks me back quite a lot. So I think I'm still in the process of trying to deal with that as well. I guess it has. I have passive aggressiveness in this, because I don't know how to deal with it face on directly. So this is what I've been trying to do anyway.
Setting boundaries for yourself, sis, comes to mind, but when we're caught up in the emotions of it, like, how could you say this to me, or how can you do this to me? When we're caught into the feelings of what does this mean about me, and we take it personally, it's really hard to see clearly. It's like you're in a fog of emotion. But when you can kind of see what is the behavior and what you find acceptable, then from a calm place, what boundary needs to be set becomes easier. How you set that is a different thing. Depends on what the situation is, who you're dealing with, etc. But find where your boundary needs to be first, what you find acceptable and not, and then, you know, seek guidance from Allah as to what is the best way. Sometimes a surprise look does it. Sometimes having to say it firmly does it. Sometimes saying it doesn't work. But at least as you're more and more setting it, it really helps. And I pray that helps. So may Allah make it easy for you. And alhamdulillah, running to the salah mat is exactly the rope of Allah we're talking about. You know, in that moment, knowing that you need Allah's help, and that's the only way you're going to get out of it. So alhamdulillah, that's very inspirational for everyone. Jazakallah khair. We all have to go soon. We've been on for ages. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you say the closing words, Amina?
Yeah, definitely. Jazakallah khair. I don't want to keep you for long, but I thought it was just important to share what I've been seeing in and hearing in these conversations from Dr. Saima, Azmina, Tanvir. What's really important to remember when we talk about trust is that there's 2 different types that immediately become obvious to me. One trust is when it's directly entrusted by Allah. For example, a marital contract, having children, being gifted a body. These are direct amanas from Allah. And then there's a second type where maybe I will say, well, I will trust some information to, let's say, Coach Amina. So when we're talking, I trust you to, you know, with some information. And that's a trust relationship between me and whoever I'm talking to. But within that second one, Allah is still there. Now, when it comes to broken trust, there are 2 people here. There's the one that's doing the breaking and the one that's on the other side. And what we have to remember is these 2 people are both accountable
to the one who has entrusted them with that. Now, what we get tied into very, very innocently is when somebody does the breaking, if you're on the other end of that relationship, you take it very personally, a bit like what Sister Mina said. And it makes you think something about yourself. You take the meaning very personally, you take it to mean something about yourself, like Tanvir mentioned. But we forget that that person who broke or breached that is first and foremost accountable to Allah. And therefore, the other person who is on the other side is also accountable to Allah. And so both people have a choice about how they're going to behave. And so if, let's say, for example, my trust was broken by somebody who was given an amana between us, I then have a choice about how I'm going to behave in that. And I have a choice whether to take that personally, because it could mean something about me, but it could definitely not mean something about me, because that other person had that amana and they decided to break that trust. Does that make sense, Amina? I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's really important to know that there's two people involved in this and we're both accountable to Allah in our actions and in our responses. And so all I ever have control over is not the one that did the breaking or not the one at the other end. I only ever will answer for my actions and my reactions. And so I just have to be really grounded in knowing who I am and who I'm going to answer to. And I think that's really key when these difficult situations come up. And I know, sisters, it's easier said than done, but this is when we have to make sure our roots are firmly grounded into knowing that we're a creation of Allah. We're valued. We're imperfectly perfect. We're honored by Allah. We're sacred. And no one can take that away from me. And I will therefore have to answer to Allah. I hope that makes sense. But I wanted to share that and maybe end the session with thinking about that. Amina, are you still there?
Yeah, it's now actually really, really powerful point. And I guess that could be, Zasia, your homework. We can't change when what has happened. We can't go back and change the facts. But what we are responsible for is our reaction and our response to Allah. When we're being tested, even when someone breaks our trust, we're actually being tested by Allah, and we need to give a good response. So if we focus on that, it makes our focus on the other person and the hurt less. And I hope that that helps. It's so lovely. You've unmuted yourself. Did you want to say something before we end? And would you like to close, actually? So what reflections on how the session went, please? And then if you can read the closing dua and then we end it for us, that would be great. Jazakallah khair.
Yes. So Jazakallah khair, all the sisters for joining today's session, and Jazakallah khair to Coach Amina, Dr. Mina, and other sisters from my coaching group for backing me up. It was a real pleasure to share this reflection and to hear everyone's reflection and read everyone's reflection. It was a great honor for me to to be here in the session today. Jazakallah khair. And I would like to close the session with this dua. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayka. Glory to you, O Allah, and praise. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship but you. I seek your forgiveness and turn to you in repentance. Ameen. Jazakallah khair, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum. Sisters, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.